The Awakening. The world had ended, or so it seemed. Alien invaders known as the Breen had ravaged Earth, annihilating humanity with a relentless ferocity. Cities were reduced to rubble, and billions were slaughtered without mercy. The once thriving planet lay in ruins, its skies filled with smoke and ash. But deep beneath the Arctic ice, a final hope stirred. Earth's last super soldiers, an elite corps of 1,000 genetically enhanced warriors, began to awaken from their cryogenic slumber. Darren Morris, a skilled soldier and natural leader, was among them. These soldiers had been kept in stasis for this very moment, a last-ditch effort to save humanity. Darren's eyes flickered open, adjusting to the dim light of the underground bunker. He took in the surroundings. Rows of stasis chambers, medical equipment, and monitors displaying the grim situation topside. Earth lay in ruins, under the control of the Breen invaders, its streets littered with human corpses. The failsafe protocol had been triggered by the catastrophic loss of human life, sending the signal to thaw the Arctic super soldier chambers. Darren's heart sank as he listened to fractured radio transmissions. The odds they faced were staggering. They were hopelessly outnumbered against a technologically superior foe. The fate of the human race now rested on their shoulders. He rallied the other soldiers, all of them emerging from their cryosleep in a daze. They explored the underground bunker, discovering a massive classified armory packed with cutting-edge weapons, powered exo-armor battle suits, and enough firepower to make the aliens pay for what they'd done. Darren's resolve hardened. They had to hit fast and hard, exploiting any weakness they could find. They couldn't afford to give up. Not now. The Breen invaders, led by the merciless Commander Pollock, meticulously scoured the ravaged cityscape, scanning for any trace of human life and eradicating any survivors. Pollock allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction, confident that their conquest was nearly complete. The pathetic humans would finally be purged from the universe. Little did they know, a storm was coming. A reckoning was about to ascend from beneath the unforgiving ice to unleash hell on those who dared attack humanity's home. Emerging from hidden access tunnels concealed beneath thick layers of Arctic ice, Darren Morris led the charge as the 999 super soldiers launched a blistering surprise attack against a Breen patrol unit in the war-torn ruins of New York City. The alien soldiers, caught completely off guard, scrambled for cover amidst the rubble and debris of shattered skyscrapers. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds from their advanced weaponry filled the air, but the human troops quickly seized the upper hand. The sleek-powered exoskeletons they wore enhanced their strength, speed, and resilience. They maneuvered with fluid precision, outflanking the Breen defensive positions. During the fierce close-quarters firefight, Darren spotted a high-ranking Breen officer barking orders to the beleaguered alien troops. A golden opportunity. With a burst of superhuman speed, Darren closed the distance, slamming an armored fist into the officer's chest and sending it crashing to the ground. He pinned the stunned alien beneath his boot, staring down with cold fury. "Surrender, Xeno scum," Darren growled through his helmet's voice amplifier. "Unless you want to join the rest of your unit fertilizing the rubble." The Breen officer, coughing up iridescent ichor, glared back defiantly before recognition flashed in its compound eyes. You're Soleno's second," Darren sneered. "Looks like today's our lucky day, boys." With the Breen unit routed and Soleno bound and restrained, Darren began a harsh interrogation, determined to extract every morsel of tactical intel he could from the captive alien. The rest of the soldiers established a secure perimeter, salvaging weapons and gear from the falling Xenos. "The shield generators, where are they located? How are the defense grid power nodes distributed across the occupied zones?" Darren demanded, his armored gauntlet wrapped around Soleno's throat. "Start talking, or we'll see how well you hold up to a few thousand volts." Soleno's mandibles clicked and twitched, a froth of ichor bubbling at the corners of its mouth. "You'll never defeat the Breen. We crushed your pathetic species once, and we'll do it again." The alien's defiance morphed into an agonized shriek as Darren sent a punishing jolt of electricity surging through its body. "I won't ask again," Darren snarled, his voice dripping with menace. "The shield generators, the command and control centers, every scrap of Breen tactical data rattling around in that ugly head of yours. Give it to me." Over the next several minutes, Solino's tenacity crumbled under the relentless onslaught of Darren's enhanced interrogation methods. The Breen officer gradually divulged critical intel: the coordinates of a key nearby command post, the intricacies of the aliens' defense grid, and a specific radio frequency that their shields were ill-equipped to handle. Darren committed every detail to memory, his mind racing as he formulated a plan of attack. Tapping into his helmet comm, Darren relayed the information to the other super soldier teams scattered across the globe. "Listen up, we've got a golden opportunity here. Solino just spilled his guts. I'm transmitting the coordinates for a central Breen command post in the ruins of downtown Manhattan. We hit that and a dozen other high-value targets simultaneously. We can deal a crippling blow to their occupation force." Darren sent out heavily encrypted data bursts with the relevant intel to the different squads, along with the radio frequency that would allow them to bypass the Breen's protective energy shielding. "Synchronize your chronometers, men. We strike hard and fast in exactly 30 minutes. Get prepped and get in position. It's time to take our planet back." As the super soldiers moved out, splitting into multiple strike teams to cover their assigned targets, Darren prepped his own squad for the assault on the central Breen command post. He double-checked the ammo reserves and power cells on his battle suit, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Pollock is mine," Darren growled to his men as they approached the heavily fortified alien structure. "That sadistic bastard has this coming for what he did to Earth. Time to show these xeno-freaks what it means to piss off humanity." Reaching the outer perimeter with demolition charges and a hail of precision weapons fire, Darren and his team blasted and carved their way into the heart of the command post. Alarms blared and emergency bulkheads slammed shut as the Breen troops mounted a desperate defense. But the humans were an implacable force, unstoppable in their fury. And then Darren saw him. Amid the chaos and smoke, Pollock, barking orders as his combat armor unfolded around his wiry frame like a second skin. The Breen commander turned, locking eyes with Darren across a devastated atrium. Hatred practically crackled between them. "So, the human roaches crawl out of hiding at last," Pollock spat, hoisting a vicious-looking plasma carbine. "I'll enjoy watching you die, Simeon. I think I'll keep your skull as a memento after I scorch the flesh from your bones." "Just try it, you sadistic sack of alien," Darren snarled back, his fingers tightening around the grips of his dual mag rifles. The weapons hummed with eager menace. "I'm going to enjoy ramming my boot down your scrawny throat." And then they were in motion, charging at one another with weapons blazing, a cataclysmic collision of battle armor, flesh, and seething rage. The battle begins. The atrium exploded in a whirlwind of violence. Darren ducked and weaved amid the storm of plasma fire, his mag rifles screeching as they unleashed a torrent of hypersonic rounds. His HUD painted Pollock in shades of crimson, predicting the aliens' movements as they danced their lethal duet through the wreckage. Training, instinct, and raw superhuman reflexes allowed Darren to stay a hair's breadth ahead of Pollock's murderous onslaught. A plasma bolt sizzled past Darren's helmeted head, sliding the wall behind him. He snap-rolled behind the blasted remains of a support column, armor clacking against the rubble. Pollock howled in thwarted rage, blasting away at Darren's position in a hail of superheated plasma. "Cower, ape. It won't prolong your miserable life. This world belongs to the Breen now." Darren gritted his teeth, a flashbang grenade materializing in his hand. "Earth belongs to humanity, you xeno prick." He hurled the grenade in a shallow arc, bouncing it off the ceiling to land behind Pollock. The alien only had a split second to register the threat before the world turned white. A thunderous concussive wave slammed into Pollock, rattling his armor and overloading his sensors. Ears ringing, vision a blurry kaleidoscope, he staggered back drunkenly, only to catch a glimpse of Darren exploding out from cover in a wild armored leap. The human led with the crackling blue disruptor blade sheathing his forearm, a distorted battle cry ripping from his throat. The battle begins, continued. The disruptor blade, supercharged by Darren's kinetic strike, punched into the gap in Pollock's armor seamlessly. A shower of sparks erupted as the Breen commander shrieked in agony, ichor spraying from the wound. Darren ripped the blade free in a vicious lateral slash, sending Pollock crashing back in a flailing tangle of limbs. The alien slammed into the atrium wall with a bone-jarring crunch, his chest a smoking, shredded ruin. "You damned simian," Pollock hissed through a bubbling froth of gore, trembling fingers scrabbling at his ruined chest. This isn't over. It's over for you, you son of a," Darren growled, slowly advancing on the fallen Breen commander. His helmeted face loomed over Pollock like an avenging specter. "You're never going to threaten humanity again." Pollock's eyes darted wildly as Darren raised a mag rifle to deliver the kill shot. With a final desperate act, the Breen commander slammed a clawed hand down on an emergency evac panel set into the wall. "Another day, ape," he snarled as a quantum transport field shimmered into existence around him. Darren cursed, squeezing off a volley of rounds a split second too late as Pollock teleported away in a crackle of displaced energy. "Slippery Xeno bastard," he roared, slamming an armored fist into the wall in frustration. Taking a steadying breath, Darren keyed his comm. "Pollock is down, but not out. The coward Quantum jumped the hell out of here." He sighed as the rest of his team reported in, confirming the command post had been secured. A flood of data from the other strike teams indicated similar successes across the globe. With the Breen command and control network crippled, Darren knew they had struck a major blow for humanity today. But he was all too aware that Pollock was still out there, along with the bulk of the Breen invasion force. The real war had only just begun. Wrenching his mag rifle free of the ruined evac panel, Darren turned to his team's tech specialist, Sergeant Hawkins. "All right, Hawkins, do your thing. Crack into these ugly alien computers and strip mine every shred of intel you can. We need to know what those Xeno bastards are planning next." As Hawkins settled behind the command console and flexed his hands in anticipation, Darren took stock of their new forward operating base, mind racing as he planned the Resistance's next move. By God and all the angels, they would make the Xenos pay in blood for every inch of scorched earth. The invasion continues. Darren's team fought their way through the Breen mothership, their advanced weapons tearing through alien defenses. Sparks flew and alarms blared as they battled corridor by corridor, securing key systems. "Hawkins, get on those weapon controls," Darren shouted as they stormed the bridge. Sergeant Hawkins slid into the alien command chair, fingers flying over unfamiliar controls. "I'm in. Targeting systems online." The view screen lit up, showing the approaching Breen reinforcement fleet. Darren's eyes narrowed. "Light them up." Massive energy cannons roared to life, lancing out at the incoming ships. Explosions blossomed in the void of space as Breen vessels were shattered by their own weapons. But their victory was short-lived. Pollock's voice crackled over the comms, seething with rage. "Retake that ship at all costs. Crush these human vermin." Boarding pods slammed into the hull, disgorging waves of Breen shock troops. Darren and his soldiers found themselves in brutal close-quarters combat throughout the ship. "Jenkins, Garcia, hold the engine room." Darren barked into his radio as he ducked behind a bulkhead, plasma bolts sizzling past. "Rodriguez, get a fire team to the hangar bay." The ship shuddered as explosions rocked it. Through the chaos of battle, Darren caught glimpses of a familiar figure. Pollock himself had boarded, cutting a swath through human defenders as he made for the bridge. Their eyes met across the command center, Pollock's mandibles clicking in anticipation. Time to end this, ape. They clashed in a fury of armored fists and crackling energy fields. Darren's enhanced reflexes were pushed to the limit as he traded blows with the alien commander. Pollux slammed Darren into a control panel, showering them both in sparks. "Your species is finished," Pollux sneered. But Darren's iron will wouldn't break. With a roar of defiance, he smashed his helmet into Pollux's face, stunning the alien. A flurry of strikes drove Pollux back. "This is our world," Darren snarled, landing a crushing blow that sent Pollux sprawling. "And you're not welcome here." Pollux scrambled away, disappearing into the ship's corridors. But the battle had taken its toll. The mothership was crippled, venting atmosphere from multiple breaches. Darren made the call. Hawkins set a collision course for the fleet. Everyone else, evac now. As his soldiers raced for escape pods, Darren gripped Hawkins' shoulder. "You don't have to do this." Hawkins smiled grimly. "Someone's got to fly this beast. It's been an honor, sir." Darren's pod launched just as the mothership plowed into the Breen fleet. The explosion lit up Earth orbit, a man-made supernova that consumed scores of alien ships. On the surface, other super soldier teams coordinated their attacks. Breen command posts fell in rapid succession as the aliens' leadership crumbled. Darren linked up with the ground forces, directing strikes against the faltering invaders. But he knew Pollux was still out there, growing more desperate by the hour. Intel shows Pollux holed up in his last fortress. Darren briefed his elite squad. "Time to end this. Lock and load." They infiltrated the stronghold, battling through waves of Pollux's most fanatical troops. The final confrontation loomed as they fought their way deeper into the alien lair. The final confrontation. The corridors of Pollux's stronghold echoed with the cacophony of battle. Darren and his squad pushed forward relentlessly, their enhanced bodies and advanced weaponry carving a path through waves of Breen defenders. "Contact left," shouted Rodriguez as plasma bolts seared the air around them. Darren spun, his mag rifle spitting hypersonic rounds that punched through alien armor with devastating effect. But for every Breen that fell, more poured in to take their place. "They're endless," growled Jenkins, his armor scorched and dented. "We can't keep this up forever, sir." Before Darren could respond, an inhuman roar shook the very walls. From a side passage emerged a nightmarish sight. Breen soldiers warped and twisted into monstrous new forms. Bulging muscles rippled beneath chitinous armor plating, while cybernetic enhancements gleamed wickedly. "What the hell?" gasped Hawkins. The mutated Breen charge, moving with impossible speed. Darren's team opened fire, but their rounds seemed to barely slow the abominations. One of the creatures reached Private Chen, its claws tearing through his armor without effort. Chen's scream was cut brutally short. "Concentrate fire," Darren bellowed, aiming for joint weak points. The super soldiers adjusted their tactics, coordinating their attacks with ruthless efficiency. Precision shots found gaps in the mutants' defenses, while well-placed grenades staggered the larger specimens. Slowly, agonizingly, Darren's team began to turn the tide. But the cost was high. Garcia fell to a plasma blast that overwhelmed his shields. Rodriguez lost an arm to a creature's bioacid spray. As they fought deeper into the stronghold, the evidence of Pollux's mad science became horrifyingly clear. Stasis pods lined the walls, filled with half-formed monstrosities. Operating tables were stained with both human and alien blood. "He's splicing human DNA," Hawkins said, his voice thick with revulsion, as he examined a nearby console, trying to create the perfect killing machine. A final set of blast doors stood between them and Pollux's central lab. As they breached the entrance, Darren came face to face with the alien commander himself. But Pollux was changed, his body grotesquely swollen and pulsing with unnatural energy. "Welcome, human," Pollux's voice grated, distorted by his mutations. "You're just in time to witness the birth of a new era." Darren raised his weapon. "The only thing being born today is your defeat." They clashed in a fury of superhuman speed and strength. Pollux's new form granted him terrifying power, but Darren's lifetime of combat experience kept him one step ahead. The lab around them crumbled as they traded earth-shattering blows. Darren's armor cracked under Pollock's assault, pain lancing through his enhanced body. But he pushed through it, searching for a weakness in the alien's mutated form. There, a pulsing node where cybernetics met flesh, unstable and vulnerable. With a final burst of speed, Darren drove his fist into that weak point. Pollock screamed, convulsing as his unstable mutations turned against him. In moments, the alien commander collapsed, his grand ambitions reduced to a smoking ruin on the lab floor. Darren stood over his fallen foe, chest heaving. "It's over," he breathed into his comm. "Pollock is down." "Repeat, Pollock is neutralized." Cheers erupted over the channel as the news spread across the planet. Reports flooded in of brain forces losing cohesion, their will to fight evaporating without their leader. Darren turned to his battered team. "Let's finish this. It's time to take our world back." The long road to victory. In the days that followed, Darren led the charge to root out the last pockets of alien resistance. The Breen were driven off-world in a series of crushing defeats, their once mighty invasion force reduced to fleeing refugees. As the last alien ships vanished into the depths of space, humanity emerged to survey the cost of their victory. The planet lay in ruins, its cities shattered, its population decimated. But they had won. Earth was free. Darren stood atop a ridge overlooking the remains of what had once been Washington. DC survivors were already at work clearing rubble and salvaging what they could. They looked to him and his fellow super soldiers with a mix of awe and hope. "Sir," Hawkins approached, his face grim. "We've finished analyzing Pollock's research data. The experiments he was conducting. They're beyond anything we've seen. And there are indications that he sent the results back to his homeworld before we stopped him." Darren's fists tightened. They had won the war, but he knew in his bones that this was nowhere near the end. As humanity began the long process of rebuilding, he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere out in the void of space, an even greater threat was brewing. Darren stood atop the crumbling ruins of what was once a skyscraper, surveying the devastated landscape. The acrid stench of smoke and decay filled his nostrils. Shattered buildings stretched as far as the eye could see, their twisted metal frames reaching skyward like skeletal fingers. "Sir, we've got another group of survivors," Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. "About 30 civilians holed up in an old subway station. They're running low on food and water." Darren clicked his mic. "Understood. Send a team to extract them. Make sure they're screened for infection before bringing them to the safe zone." He turned to Hawkins, who was hunched over a makeshift command console. "What's our current resource situation?" Hawkins shook his head. "Not good. We're down to less than a week's worth of rations for the civilians we've already gathered. Medical supplies are even lower." Darren nodded grimly. "All right. We need to hit those Breen supply caches. Get me a map of suspected locations." As Hawkins pulled up the data, an explosion rocked the ground. Darren spun, rifle raised, to see a plume of smoke rising from the eastern sector. "Jenkins, report." He barked into his comm. Static crackled for a moment before Jenkins's strained voice came through. "Sir, we've got a situation. One of those Breen mutants broke through the perimeter. It's tearing through the refugee camp." Darren was already moving, leaping from rooftop to rooftop with superhuman agility. "I'm on my way. All available units, converge on the east sector. Contain that thing at all costs." He arrived to find chaos. A monstrous creature, easily twice the size of a man, rampaged through the makeshift shelters. Its body was a grotesque fusion of Breen and human features, bulging muscles covered in chitinous plates. Refugees fled in terror as it smashed through barriers with terrifying strength. Darren's team opened fire, their rams pinging off the creature's armored hide. It roared in fury, charging towards them with frightening speed. "Aim for the joints," Darren shouted, ducking under a massive swipe of its clawed hand. He rolled, coming up behind the beast and emptying his mag into the back of its knee. The creature stumbled, giving Jenkins the opening to lob a plasma grenade. The explosion engulfed the mutant in searing energy. When the light faded, the smoldering corpse crashed to the ground. Darren approached cautiously, ensuring it was truly dead. "Hawkins, get a containment team down here," he ordered. "I want this thing studied. We need to know what other surprises Pollock left behind." As the adrenaline faded, the scale of the destruction became clear. Several refugees lay dead or injured, their meager shelters destroyed. "Sir," Rodriguez approached, her armor scarred from the fight. "The civilians are getting restless. There's talk of breaking away, trying to make it on their own." Darren clenched his fist. "Not an option. They wouldn't last a week out there. We need tow." He was cut off as Hawkins's voice burst over the comm. "Captain, you need to get back to command immediately. We're picking up a signal from space." Darren's eyes widened. He sprinted back to their makeshift headquarters, bursting through the door to find Hawkins frantically working at his console. "What have we got?" Darren demanded. Hawkins looked up, his face a mix of disbelief and hope. "Sir, it's human. We're picking up transmissions from multiple points in deep space. They're using old emergency protocols, but it's definitely our people." Darren leaned in, listening to the crackling, fragmented message. "Any survivors? Earth respond. Colony outposts stand ready." He straightened, mind racing. "Hawkins, can we respond?" The tech specialist nodded. "Yes, sir. But our equipment is limited. We'd need to boost the signal. Maybe use one of the old satellite uplink stations." Darren nodded. "Do it. And get the team ready. We're going to make contact and find out just what's left of humanity out there."